Welcome back to another episode of the Legal Unicorns podcast. Those of you who've listened before will know what this is all about. And those of you who haven't, thank you for joining us. This is the podcast that gives us the opportunity to really shine a light on the next generation of legal professionals that are doing something different across the African market. Today, I'm absolutely delighted and a little bit nervous, if I may say, to be interviewing turning the tables somewhat on a prolific podcaster, fantastic podcaster, which we will get into, legal professional, Tebello Motshwane. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Rob, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be a legal unicorn. I like that name.
Wonderful. Well, yeah, I where it came from was there was a podcast in the UK that was talking a lot about tech unicorns and what makes a unicorn special. And I've got a daughter as well who has been through her process of loving unicorns.
Yeah.
But unicorns are magical creatures that are doing something different and stand above everything else. And I thought there's a lot of people in our country here and in other parts of Africa that are doing something slightly different and are helping the community and in many cases, and driving female agenda forward or whatever agenda it may be. And they're driving it forward, but they never get much of a light shone on them. And I know that you, your podcast as well has similar, so we'll certainly get into that. But look, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And I want to get into it. We're turning your listeners will know that we're turning the tables a little bit on you today, because obviously your fantastic podcast, which is Sisters in Conversation,
correct,
part of your Sisters-in-Law brand, which I've listened to many episodes. I can't say I've listened to every single one, but there are many episodes.
Thank you.
And we'll have the links below. I was really excited to get you on because obviously you ask about the guest's journey and about their life, and I want to do the same with you, if that's okay.
Sure.
So please.
Being on this side, obviously, like I said offline, it's actually, I've been anxious all week. Like,
Me too.
I'm usually the person asking the questions. So I had to keep saying to myself, don't ask him what legal unicorns, how he got the name.
Oh, no, that's fine.
You're not on the asking side today.
Well,
so when you
mind.
started explaining how you got the name, I was like, yes.
Well, yeah, but that's probably how it's going to flow as well. But look, I can't thank you enough for the work that you're doing and what you're putting out there is phenomenal. And I will encourage everybody listening to this to tune in. The links will be below and follow and support your podcast. So I'm just going to give a little introduction and then I'm going to fire into straight with the first question. I'm going to read off the bio that you kindly sent us here because it's an incredibly impressive bio.
Thank you.
Tebello Motshwane is an admitted attorney and a notary awaiting admission. You are the managing director of the Collective Intelligence Legal Consultants, which we're going to get into, and I'd like to sort of dig into the work that you're doing there. And you're the founder of Sisters-in-Law, as we've just mentioned. Now, Sisters-in-Law is doing amazing work. It's not just a podcast, is it? It's an education platform as well. So I'm very keen to get into your work that you're doing with other organizations and shine a light on that. Some of your achievements are professional achievements, include being the recipient of the Mail and Guardian Top 50 Powerful Women Award in 2022. Amazing.
Thank you.
Again, if I wasn't nervous of interviewing already, I am even more so now.
Thank you.
And you're also alumni in the Nelson Mandela Washington Fellowship 2021 cohort and 2020 Mail and Guardian Top 200 Young South African in the Justice and Law category. Amazing.
Thank you so much,
in
Rob.
such a short period of time, and all during COVID as well.
all during COVID. Thank you. It is always so remarkable listening to somebody introduce me because I'm always like, who are they talking about? And obviously imposter syndrome sets in and you're like, I don't know who they're talking about and whether I'm even worthy to have included this in my bio. So thank you for such a beautiful introduction.
I know what you mean. I know.
Yeah.
I've again, I always feel like I'm repeating myself 100 times, so apologies to the listeners. But I spent a lot of time before I lived in South Africa, in Asia, and we were lucky enough to win a lot of awards. And you have that imposter syndrome. You're sort of walking up in your black tie, you're walking up, someone's giving you this beautifully shiny, heavy award, and you're a big crowd clapping you, and you're okay. Me?
Yeah.
Is this okay?
Yeah.
Is this for me?
Yeah.
And then you have to
Absolutely.
take a moment and go, actually, no, I did do that through hard work and perseverance.
But I also read something on imposter syndrome, which kind of changed my perspective, and says basically imposter syndrome is also systemic. There are barriers, especially for Black women, which are put into place, which are supposed to make us feel insecure. And then we then have this term that we use often as women, Black or white, that we use often, and we call it a syndrome, almost attaching it to like an illness. Whereas being an imposter in the room actually allows you to read the room and use that to the best of your ability, right? You are then forced to be creative so that you are actually exceed the people in the room. So it's not like an imposter syndrome. Yes, you're an imposter in the room maybe, but it's not a syndrome because you end up just being creative and being more aware of your surroundings than the people who are in the room who believe they genuinely deserve to be there. So I think that changed my perspective a little bit. I was like, okay, so I'm in the room to be creative and I'm probably going to be better than the people in the room because I'm self-aware.
That's really interesting. And anyone looking on the camera would have seen, I'm listening to you with a quizzical look. I'm going, that actually makes sense in the sense that okay, so you read, sorry, I want to get into other questions, but while we're on this. So you read something that was really describing specifically for Black women how they're effectively layers.
Like Black, Black women, but it was probably at women, but
and enforced sort of societal forces, and then they'll make you feel, and they link it to a syndrome, like it's a sickness, like
we're ill.
To isolate you effectively.
Yes.
Where actually, if you're an imposter in the room, that gives you a chance to step back and go, okay, I know what their game is all about.
Study people, So it allows you to be more creative than the people in the room. I love it.
We need to push that more.
I love it.
I love it. I love that too. Look, that's brilliant. I love that. Yeah,
changed my perspective completely.
That's amazing, isn't it? I love it. Anyway, you, please, where were you born? How did you grow up? And you know what? How did that shape the person you are today?
So my parents are Soto. I'm Soto. I grew up in Joburg. It's always weird when people say you grew up in Joburg. Like, where's home? I'm like, okay, I grew up in Joburg.
It's there.
I grew up in Joburg. I am the firstborn of 3 children. My parents divorced when I was in primary school. Oh, wow, young. So a lot of the time I couldn't understand why we only seeing my dad on, weekends and holidays, and why my mom and I are, and her minor children are moving around from place to place. I went to 4 different primary schools and stayed in 17 different places, 17 different homes.
Oh, wow. Changed
homes quite a lot. So there was a lot of instability during my primary and early high school years.
So sort of between the ages of 6 and 12 kind of?
I'd say 6 and 15.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep. So there was quite a lot of moving around, instability, and just trying to make sense of this world where a lot of my friends around me have mom and dad at home. And I'm just, either with mom and then isolated weekends or holidays, I'm either with dad. So that used to cause me a lot of, feeling insecure or inadequate. And I'd often speak to my grandfather about it. I'm like, what's going on? Why do we have to live like this? Why are my parents not together? Why is my dad in this house? Why is my mom in that house? And why do we keep moving so much? And my grandfather would always say, you have to understand the law to understand what's happening with your parents. So I think he planted the seed. Yeah. Or definitely he planted the seed, because I always had that thing at the back of my head, like I really want to understand why things turned out the way they did for my mom. And I went into law.
Well done to your grandfather for planting the seed, but quite, I mean, obviously it's very private, so I won't delve, but quite a tumultuous, topsy-turvy childhood, I guess. If you're the firstborn, then you would have had to take on a lot of responsibility for the younger two.
Absolutely.
You have to grow up fast.
Absolutely. Like even the concept of having a nanny wasn't always, practical. So there were many times where I remember coming home from school, ensuring that I make 2-minute noodles for my brother, who would be coming like 2 hours after me because he was from nursery school, and there was no adult in the house. So we just get the key from under the rug, the welcome rug at the door, open the door, make 2-minute noodles. And
how old were you?
I was about maybe 10, 11.
Oh, wow.
And making sure that your homework is done because your mom knocks off really late and it's not going to have time.
Because she's working.
Because she's working. She's not going to have time to come check your homework and make sure and baby you basically. So you are the adult. And I still actually cannot stomach 2-minute noodles because of that.
That's a good thing to avoid.
I cannot stomach 2-minute noodles. So yeah, there was definitely a lot of responsibility at an early age. And we often make jokes about, being the firstborn daughter makes you deputy parent, but I truly was a deputy parent.
You've truly lived it.
Truly lived it.
Yeah, the UK, they used to have a term for it called latchkey kid, which is basically with the keys under the mat. And you've got to let yourself in and you've got to make your own dinner. And I mean, that was more my father and mother's generation. But you went through that. You had to be the deputy parent.
Yeah.
And some kids might be out there thinking, oh, isn't it great that mum's not checking on my homework? But actually, it was more circumstance.
I had friends who were always like, oh, you get to be home alone all the time. And I was like,
I don't want to be.
I don't want to be home alone all the time. I also want to get home and find that my meal has been made for me, I also want to get home and not have to be the one that's starting with the dinner preps, like peeling veggies and washing veggies for my mom so that when she gets home, she just puts everything in a pot. Like, I want that to be done for me.
Does your brother still eat 2-minute noodles?
You know what? He has his days. But he stays alone now. So I know he probably definitely
does,
leans on
Open
them
up
more
the cupboard
often.
and it's just, yeah. But it might actually, I mean, again, I don't know your brother, obviously, but it might be comfort food for him because it might remind him of his
right?
you and his older
I love
sister.
That.
And
I'll take it.
Yeah, look, so it's a childhood that's clearly shaped who you are today.
Absolutely.
And you have to
Absolutely.
do it for yourself and you have to get out there. Now,
absolutely.
So you grew up, you went through school in Joburg and then got into university?
University of Johannesburg.
Okay, UJ.
So yeah, absolutely. The woman I am today, definitely shaped by my upbringing, by being raised by a single parent who was very, very invested in education, very invested in reading. I mean, I learned how to read because of her. She'd, take me to the library with her on the days that she was studying because we didn't have a nanny. And I'd sit in a corner and read. And it helped because that's what you do in law. You just read and read and read. So I went to varsity, had a little bit of a challenge in the beginning because I fell pregnant in my first year. And
just to add an extra bit of challenge for you.
Yeah, that was a bit hectic. Fell pregnant in first year, but looking back, I absolutely know that is the reason why I managed to flourish. While my age mates were focused on partying and all of that, I had to then be responsible again.
Wow.
And really just push on the studies. Because I knew that I'm not just doing this for me anymore. I have a son who I actually don't want my mom to feel like she has to support him, So that really just inspired me to push. And luckily, from the first year, I was very interested in the subjects in law. Family law was in our first year, and that obviously set the tone because they were talking about the divorce stuff, the real stuff that I decided to pursue. Law because basically, remember, I wanted to understand more about my parents' divorce. So that was in the first year. Yeah, so that was in the first year, and I was like, I'm in the right place.
Okay. I mean, obviously, university is challenging enough, and you get there, and then you fall pregnant with your son, who must now be as tall as I am.
Yeah, he's a big
6'3".
He's in high school now, so he's a big boy.
Amazing, and flourishing, no doubt, as well. And
absolutely.
But do you think it in a way it helped you focus your attention on your thinking, like we all do when we become parents?
Yeah.
Okay, it's not just me now.
Yeah. Absolutely. So
you had to grow up fast.
Again. Like looking back, I always say that it didn't immediately register that I'm a mom, but I knew that there was someone I had to take care of. So I'm not sure in the beginning. I'm not sure if I had like a mom son relationship.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, okay,
you're 18.
Yeah. I just need to get through this school stuff. And I really only started accepting him or rather accepting my role as a mom when I was starting work and I was able to actually like go into Ackermans or whatever and be like, okay, I'm taking clothes for my son, you know?
Yeah.
Like now as being a
There's
mom,
those
like buying the
moments you
stuff.
go, oh, I'm actually a mum.
And then basically I haven't stopped spending since. so that's when it really dawned on me. Like once I was done with my studies, I have to give it to my mom though. She really went out of her way to make sure that I was, you know, a young adult, a teenager. So she'd like be like, no, I'm looking after the child. Go party with your friends, you know.
Oh.
She went out
So
of her way.
she gave you that space to grow up as well.
She gave me that independence. Yeah. I think even in second, third year, she was like, go focus on your studies. So she made sure that I move out of home and go stay closer to school. So I'd be closer to the library. So I'd spend longer hours there. So she really did just trust me to be independent and to just do the task that I was at varsity for.
Amazing.
Yeah.
She sounds like a wonderful woman.
Absolutely
she really,
amazing.
really stepped up and to support you, but also knew what you would need. Yeah, she sounds like an amazing mum.
There was never a time when I was like, oh my goodness, I'm the only, you know, friend in my circle with a child. She never made me feel like that. She was always like, oh, your friends are going out. You should go out with them. And I'd be like, oh no, I'll just look after the baby this weekend. She'd be like, nonsense, you know?
Go out.
So she really,
get the balance.
she really, I think for her it was important that I don't miss out on those years. You know, with her having been married at a young age, I think for her it was just very important that I pursue independence and not feel like overwhelmed by the process of being an adult at such an early age.
Yeah. Almost protecting you from the realism of being a parent, you know, in a way, and just. But it's amazing foresight from your mother. It's amazing. Well, maybe she learned from her own experiences, like you just said there, in terms of being a young parent. But wonderful that she really clicked into gear and thought, no, you know, you need that because you do. Otherwise, you're going to start. You will regret things in later life. We do. It's human nature. But you won't have any of that resentment built up because you had the best of both worlds. I guess.
I don't have to like be a 21-year-old, 40-year-old.
Yeah.
Because I experienced.
Yeah, and we all know a few of those. Yeah. Some of my friends who are now edging towards 50 and they still haven't grown up.
Yeah.
So I know that very well. I mean, that's obviously sounds like as a unit, as a family unit, you really handled that really well. Yeah. And you carried on studying and you carried on and you had the nice balance and you were falling in love with the law, I guess.
Absolutely.
And the family law being in the first year would have helped as well, because then you think, well, Granddad, look, I'm learning. Yeah. And then you finish UJ and you're still in Johannesburg. And then were you looking for articles? How was it working?
So I was looking for articles. I always say that I really wish there was a platform like Sister in Law when I was in varsity, because I just didn't have an understanding of, okay, what exactly needs to happen after studying. And yes, the law firms would come for career day, sort of educate us on the process of like looking for VAC work, doing your articles. But I don't think I understood the gravity. Like, I don't think I understood the gravity until I started having conversations with some people in my third year class, I think it was. And they were already signed up to these big law firms for like 2 years after. Like, basically, we still had fourth year to do, but they were already signed in third year. And I just couldn't understand.
You're looking at them going, like, how do you not tell me?
Yeah, how do you know about these things? And I think also back then there was just this whole, people were connected to the right people. And because of the limited resources or limited educational platforms that we had, we didn't have knowledge of the opportunities that exist after studying law. So I always say, if I had known at that stage that it's not black and white, I don't have to, pursue being an attorney. I don't have to pursue articles. Yeah. I'm sure I would have explored with, other avenues after studying law. So anyway, be that as it may, I got articles December of my fourth year. So December of my final year.
So 2004?
No. 2013.
2013. I was going to say. Yeah. Around there.
Maybe, 2012, 2013. Then I got the articles starting in the following year, right? Yeah. That was
it?
a horrible experience. I
Yeah.
speak about it often.
Please tell me.
Yeah, it was just such a toxic environment. It was almost like there was no opportunity to grow. There was no one really invested in grooming you to become an exceptional attorney, because that's what I was looking for. I was looking to become exceptional.
Yeah.
There was a number of microaggressions, racism-wise. And
Really?
I really just felt like there was no one to validate the way I was feeling about how things were unfolding, right? Because we weren't having these conversations. Like back then, like 2012, 2013, we weren't having conversations about feeling like your boss is racist, or feeling like the firm that you work for is racist. We just
this is a
weren't having
real
these
new
conversations.
phenomenon.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I've been lucky. I've been listening to some of your podcasts and listening to some of the journeys of some of your guests. It's becoming more and more apparent that so many people have had that same experience as you.
Yeah.
And I remember I had the wonderful Nikita Lala in here, who used to be a partner at, I think, ENS and Webbers, and now runs her own law firm. And she immediately, within 5 minutes, just started straight into telling me about the racism that she faced as a woman of color growing up in the law sector here. And I was fascinated. But you obviously faced something similar.
Yeah. So it's also then just very difficult to perform or to express yourself, because a lot of the time you're trying to think about whether or not you're overthinking things, which actually really do exist, but because you're not there's no allyship, you're not having those conversations with someone you trust at the workplace, right? And when you get home and you speak about these things, so if I got home and I spoke about these things to my parents, they are from a generation of just keep your head down and do the work. Whereas I was now in a generation of where we're trying to like make our voices heard. We're not just putting our head down. We want our voices to be heard, because we know that our contribution to the legal profession is equally important, you know?
Yeah.
So you get home, you have these conversations, and it's like, no, just, put your head down and do the work. And you get to work tomorrow and you're like, no, I need my voice to be heard because it matters. Yeah. So it was just a very challenging time.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's go back a step. And I often make these points about the universities, and I then sometimes feel that I'm picking on them unnecessarily.
Yeah.
And I'm really not. And I've got nice friends at WITS. I went to do a talk there last year, and at UWC and Stellenbosch. So I'm not saying anything too bad. What I'm saying is I don't think the law schools here necessarily yet have quite got to grips with preparing the students for the workplace. They really, I mean, first and foremost, if you can look at the research that we recently pulled out from the Law Society, it's all there online for people to see. There are 6,000 students graduating from law schools in South Africa every year, and there are only 1,000 CA positions. There are 5,000 young, bright, brilliant graduates, energetic, willing to work, who aren't being told that there isn't a place for them as a CA. So, but what are the alternatives?
Yes.
And there are many alternatives.
Many, that's what
as you are showing, leaders like yourself and Rory Sang, who I've also interviewed, leaders like yourselves really showing people and giving people a platform for further education and to do alternative careers. But I'm not sure the universities have quite got there yet, to grips with showing people.
But on the issue of grooming us for the workplace, I think being in academics is just it's just a different ball game. I don't know if the political landscape of lecturers in university is the same as corporate South Africa.
No, it's not. I mean, navigating universities is totally different to when you go into the workplace.
Yeah.
You will have faced your first day. First of all, you go through the interview process, and then you get the articles, and it's your first day at work, right? We've all faced similar, right? The first day in the workplace is my first job.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it everything, and then you quickly realize this is nothing to
compared
to I don't know where I was, for the last 3 years, but this is the real world now. Now, look, you obviously, you said there that you had some bad experience or bad experiences. I don't want to do you a disservice of digging into it too much. I know that you've spoken about it on your podcast a lot, but just from our listeners as well, was it from day one? Were there microaggressions? Were you feeling, hang on a minute, what's going on
So
here? Did you second guess yourself?
Yeah, one of the major things that stand out to me was how I got to the law firm, and there was a project I was busy with, and I had done a beautiful legal opinion. Even the superiors were like, this is a brilliant legal opinion on a matter that they'd been working on. And one of the guys was like, no, but this is really great. I'm going to take it to a different department as well, because this is not the quality we expect from a CA who's been here for less than a month, right? Then later, maybe 2-3 months later, that same matter was now ready and ripe for court. And they took a white girl to court who still had 2 modules to complete with UNISA, right? So I'm a graduate.
Why?
I'm a graduate. I've produced an amazing legal opinion for this matter, but I don't get to get into the boys' club for the court process.
Right. Let's unpack
that. And somebody who is still outstanding 2 modules from graduating with her LLB gets to go to court and comes to my office to ask for that file that I had been working on. And I just
had to give your work.
I was like, this is crazy. But I didn't know how to speak up. I didn't know how to speak up about it. And that's where the resentment started. I was like, okay, I don't belong here. And at that point, I was like, I cannot believe there are 22 more months of articles to go, and I'm already feeling like I hate it. And then the 22 more months were absolutely awful. The same things just kept on happening, but in a different, format, or in a different way. But it was the same exclusions from certain projects, the same inclusions with certain projects. Like if we have a black client, then we're gonna call you into the boardroom just so representation matters type thing. And then
I'm getting so angry.
And then you're like, I'm not imagining this. This is happening.
Yeah.
And then luckily at that time, I was then also having these conversations with my boyfriend, who's now my husband. And I was having these conversations, and he's like, I just didn't know how to warn you about the fact that, corporate South Africa, it really does happen. And unfortunately, as Black women, you have an even longer way to go in terms of just being heard. Because
men, by their nature, would speak up quicker.
And men, obviously, and also men have been in the legal profession longer, just as a whole.
Okay, I'm getting so angry at this, but okay, let me be sensitive. South Africa isn't the only place that this happens, and exclusion. I spent many years in Asia and the Americas before that, and I've seen it happen in law firms, in corporates. But here, there's too many stories that are similar to yours. There's too many, and we're not talking about that long ago. It's not like you're 98 years old and we're talking about the 50s and 60s here. Yeah. We're talking about less than 10 years ago.
Less than 10 years ago.
Where, see, I would love the chance to ask directly to the partner or the principal, whoever it was that took the white girl to court. I would like to ask right now, why did you do that?
Yeah, but because it was easy to do that, that person today no longer has memory of that. It was insignificant. Remember, I'm just the insignificant
to
CA.
them, but massively defining to you in the first month.
I don't forget that.
Yeah.
I don't forget that. In fact, the rest of my career and practice, I was like, I just didn't feel like I belonged.
How did it make you feel at the time?
I remember one of the decisions I had made was, okay, now that you are finding yourself in this position, you need to be proactive. Get whatever you can learn, and also just go the extra mile still. So produce the good work, produce the brilliance, because you are going to need this to start your own thing. So I always had, I just
even
knew.
then,
I just knew. I was like, okay, once I'm done with my articles, I'm going to have to look into starting my own thing. Because I was just like, there's no room for me because I thought every law firm is going to be like this. So let me start my own thing with my own rules and with a view of empowering other Black women who'd find themselves in the same position as me, and making sure that I use my platform or my company to be a place of affirmation for Black women in law, that
Wonderful.
You belong in the room, you belong in the profession. So I knew from then that it's just a matter of time. Learn as much as you can, produce great results, because you'll still need to be able to produce good work for, your own clients one day. And
so month in, you knew this is where I'm going to have to go.
So on the last day of my articles, I registered collective intelligence. Right.
Brilliant.
I didn't even waste time. I was like, today's my last day of articles. So my articles were technically ending in December, on the 8th of December, but I was supposed to work until the end of January. I don't remember why. I think there was something that I was specifically working on, and I just couldn't let go of that specific matter. I wanted to see to finish. So I think I carried on working until mid-February. But December, the last day of my articles, the 8th of December, I registered Collective Intelligence Legal Consultants, not even knowing what direction it would take specifically at the time, but I knew that this is going to be centered around trying to empower other Black women in the legal profession and just giving them a point of reference,
Amazing. I mean, there's actually so many things you've said in the last 10 minutes that my brain has latched onto. Things like, even going back a little bit further than that, and when you said about when you were at university and there was nothing like Sisters in Law, Sisters in Conversation, when actually it would have been great to have had something where you can, and that's one of the reasons why we do this, right? That was one of the reasons why we do the podcast. These conversations are so important. Awareness. But also for me, it's such an education as well. It's such I really admire people like yourself and Rorisang and Nikita and Leia and others that I've been in conversation with, that are open. Not that you shouldn't be openly, you shouldn't be afraid of talking about your experiences ever, but it's so refreshing that you are also open about and going, this happened. And I'm sitting here going, obviously I grew up in London, I grew up 12,000 miles away as a white kid, people can see that. And I had a different upbringing. Yes, it was a working class upbringing. It was a poor upbringing. And Britain is less divided by colour and more divided by class. You're not getting into that boardroom if you didn't go to this school. And for some reason we accept that. So okay, well I won't get there then. But it's such an education for me to sit here and listen to your journey, and I love the way you reacted. I mean, I'm guessing in private you got angry and but you went, no, I'm going to just do something about this, and I'm going to help other people. Amazing.
It was important not to wallow in it. Like I said at the beginning as well, there's systems that are put into place to make maybe specifically Black women feel insecure about the positions that they hold or the spaces that they can occupy professionally. And so it is honestly through these conversations that we're having, today, you and I, that a young listener out there can be inspired and say, okay, against all odds, there is actually room for me. There is a seat at the table, or I'm going to bring my own chair. I mean, I brought my own chair. I was like, whatever, let's go.
I love it. You are such an inspiration, and you really are. You're right as well. People will listen to this conversation and many of the conversations that you've had. And look, if you're listening to this and you are starting out in your career or you're at university and you are wondering, trying to take snippets from us who've been through certain situations, good, keep listening to us. Keep taking those gems. And let us tell you now that you have to fight the good fight.
Yeah, fight the good
fight. You have to look after yourself. Someone said to me yesterday, you have to own your career, you have to own it and get out there and do it and follow in Tebello's footsteps and really, and learn from it, because it is going to be a tough fight out there. Hopefully, we're starting to move to, as a culture and a community here in South Africa, moving away from some of the racism that you've faced, but it feels a little bit too new. And
Yeah,
as in
it's still
there.
it's
Like
still
that's
new.
only
It's
8
still
years
new.
ago or
Yeah.
9 years ago,
Yeah.
and you were. It baffles me, and maybe there isn't an answer. But this is about the 20th time I've heard a young black professional say to me, "Oh yeah, they bring me into the room because they've got a black client and they
Yeah.
want to show face." Wait, in what world do they think?
It's crazy out
Do
there.
they think, "Oh look, there's a black guy coming and we've got to get the black person"? Do you think they care? They don't care. They just
Yeah.
want their work done,
Yeah.
and they don't want to pay
Yeah.
through the nose
Yeah.
for it. They
And-
want the best lawyer. They don't care about the
absolutely. And I can tell you today
That's
that
bizarre.
the black client probably, because they just see one of them, they probably don't even it doesn't register to the black client that, oh, wonderful.
Yeah,
You know,
they don't care.
Yeah, I
They
don't
don't
think
care
it
what
registered.
they're just seeing a sea of
But
lawyers.
yeah,
They're not
yeah.
seeing the
But
color
I
of
think
people's
another
faces.
thing that I just want to say, sorry to cut you off, Rob, that we probably are wrong in thinking that the concept of representation or transformation is a destination. It's not. We are gonna. So it's not to say, oh, by year 2030 there'll be no racism because we would have arrived
Yes, there
at
will
the
be,
transformation.
sadly,
So
there will
this
be, yeah.
this whole
I know what you mean. Yeah.
we're not going to transformation. We have to actively live, we have to live transformation, and we have to live it through just making it a little bit easier, through us women who are in positions to challenge the system, or to, if I'm a senior associate at a big firm and I report to a white man, I need to make him aware of the fact that he's got, 6 CAs and none of them are black. So as the senior associate, I'm the only black woman in the room at that time, right? Reporting to a white man who has 6 juniors, beneath me, but none of them are black. So I need to be the one that ensures that he is made aware of the fact that there's something wrong with your team's complement.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. No, yeah, you do. Yeah, yeah.
So we just, as black women in the profession, need to be very intentional about the conversations we are also having with our superiors. If we are seeing that something doesn't look right, also just bearing the demographics, there are more black people in South Africa.
Yeah, by a country mile.
Surely,
95%
surely there's
of the
something
country is-
wrong
yeah.
in the room if the staff complement is not making sense, or the people at the top are just male and pale. There's no accountability because all of you came from Stellenbosch University. So there's this boys club, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I need to, as this black senior woman that you're willing to listen to, I need to be able to say, Rob, the people at the top are all from Stellenbosch University. You guys are not holding each other accountable. It's like basically another Steinhoff, right? I need to be the one.
We
to
know
be
what
like,
happened there.
I need to be the one to say what's going on. There
Yeah.
needs to be diversity, and even this whole, culture of chief diversity officer that is coming crashing down because they just made a role. I think it's a COVID role. All of a sudden, there was like chief diversity officers.
Unnecessary. You just need to
Just don't have
Just live it.
Just live it.
Well, look at it this way. I mean, again, I'm lucky enough to have been brought up in a town and by parents who never saw color. Color was not a thing. It doesn't matter. And when you grow up like that, it's not a thing. And when color is taken off the table, or race or culture is taken off the table, and when you're looking at hiring your team, you naturally hire people that you like and inspire to work with and you aspire to work with and you like. And then you look at a company like GRM that I own, and then you look at the colors and gender and race of people, and it is a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Because you've not thought about it.
Yeah.
You've just living
Yeah.
it. So the fact that I get the diversity roles within firms where there are the boys clubs or the Stellenbosch clubs or where there has to be broken maybe, but it's a temporary role. It doesn't. But I do But you have a big role to play.
Yeah.
People like yourself and others that we've mentioned, and some of your guests, to keep asking those questions.
Yeah, I think...
And keep saying,
we have to just
Do
live
you know the
transformation.
danger, just going back a step, the danger of law firms bringing in their black associates for their client to show, look. The danger is that they probably don't even notice because they're just there to get the deal done.
Yeah.
But the danger is if they go, oh, you're doing that for me, are you?
Yeah.
Is that the kind of firm you are? I don't want to know.
Sure.
And because that would be my reaction.
Yeah.
If they, it's a terrible example, but if I was doing a deal and then they just brought in another English guy and just sat and went, look,
Okay.
we've got one of you.
Yeah.
Look.
Yeah.
I'd be like, is that how you think I think?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to work with a company like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So these conversations are very important. I always say, like we shouldn't feel tired, or we shouldn't feel like, oh, there's Rob's podcast and here they are again discussing transformation. We have to actually have these conversations. These kind of podcasts and platforms must serve as a reminder of the work that we have to continuously, put in. We are going to eventually, equalize this. But like I said, we shouldn't think of it as being a destination, because then we're going to get to 2030 and we're going to be like, we've done enough,
Yeah. There's a couple of things in there that I completely and utterly agree with. I like the term, it's not a destination. It's and we should probably keep saying that. And the conversations, and you're right as well, the conversations have to keep being had.
Yeah.
It's not about, like you said, they're going to talk about transformation.
Yeah.
We have to keep talking about it until everybody's living it. And
it's
we
fine
have these conversations in the office.
People are uncomfortable. It's fine.
Absolutely. But please. In fact, if you are uncomfortable, keep listening.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way you're going to get through it.
Absolutely.
I have these conversations all the time because I'm being educated. Come along with me on the journey.
And sometimes you're not aware, right? So yes,
some people. Yeah,
let's say
it's
you
not
are
racism.
the boys
Is
club.
not always intentional, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes it's like, I mean, I've lived in Asia for a long time, and I can tell you now. Obviously, the people I know are fantastic, but on a whole, Chinese people can be extremely racist.
Yeah, we've seen in the media as well.
And sometimes they're just not aware. They'll say something, and I'll go, "What did you just say?" And they'll go, "Oh." Is that bad?
Wrong?
Is that bad? And you go, yes, it is.
I hear that.
Yeah.
I do hear that. Obviously, it can't be used as like an excuse for people to get away with it. Like, I wasn't aware.
Education and then...
So it is important to educate people on, or making them aware.
Representation is the word you
making
use
them
then.
aware.
Yeah.
So maybe Rob didn't realize that everybody he's been hiring is from Stellenbosch and they were first team rugby in high school, and
they're really boring.
So I do need to come in and educate you and say, this does not even make sense. Look. And then that's when you're going to be like, because it's also, it's human nature to attract to, or be attracted to someone like you. So, so as a black woman as well, I'm not saying that I'll step into a room and immediately see Rob and be like, I need to have a conversation with Rob. No, I'm probably going to step into a room, see another black woman sitting alone, and then feel safer to go start a conversation with her, or feel, because I can relate to her. Yeah, we might have more in common.
Yeah.
So yes, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes it's just I just wasn't aware. It's human nature. And then you come to me and say, Tebello, every time you step into a room, you overlook the Robs. What's going on? And I'm like, okay, I didn't notice that. Next time when I step into a room, trust me, I'm going to be more intentional about making sure that I work the room and not just pay attention to the one person who looks like me.
Own the future of recruitment today. Access a secured, anonymized global talent pool. Connect with qualified candidates through multiple private label databases. By creating your own Stintit, you can achieve the following. Step 1. Access your company dashboard by logging in. Step 2. Click Find Candidate to search for the ideal candidate. To begin, create a new position and fill in the necessary details. The system will search through multiple databases to find the ideal match for you. Step 3. Once the search is completed, you will instantly receive multiple 100% matches, which have all been fully verified and KYC checked. Step 4. When the candidate chooses to opt in, you can view their skill set and experience. Only when you are satisfied, use your credit to unlock the candidate's full profile. Once unlocked, the profile remains unlocked for all future searches. What makes this system truly revolutionary is that when you search, the search will continue in all the different databases until a 100% match is found. Each database involved and the candidate share in the revenue, and that's how this circular revenue model and shared database benefit all parties involved.
Yeah. And in that scenario, if someone's making you aware that, and then you're rectifying it.
Yeah.
And I think that's fine. I don't think anybody who's ever talks about transformation or if there's a problem within a team, certainly in law firms, because obviously we do a lot of recruitment. So we're always looking at the structure of teams, and all of the things that you've mentioned do actually happen. I don't always think that, what I'm trying to say is it's okay to have, to like different people. If you went to, sorry, poor Stellenbosch is getting picked on.
Shame.
But if you went to Stellenbosch and you like rugby and you see a guy that clearly played rugby and you think, and you find out that he went to Stellenbosch, and if that's your, okay, chat to him, but not at the exclusion of everybody else, and especially when it comes in the workplace. Yeah. And I do think representation is important. You're talking about the law society has very good stats on this, so they're a bit old, a bit outdated, but they do, on their website. But you can see it's broken down. How many lawyers there are in South Africa? How many of them are white? How many of them are black? And you add that to the whole population as a whole, and there is something missing a little bit. But I know what you mean about representation and the importance of representation. For the listeners that know this. My son's got special needs, so we're very deep into the special needs community, which is in a wonderful community and is often ostracized by every corner of society. Children and adults with Down syndrome or whatever it may, or whatever their syndrome may be. And the importance of representation in the paper, in the media, in the workplace is humongous for these kids. And adults alike. So I get that, and it has to be. Yeah, so I understand the importance of representation.
And it will be also through conversations
and keep having those conversations. Well, that takes me on nicely. I mean, obviously, you said there that you set up on sort of the last day of your article. You set up the collective intelligence firm. So. Yeah. When did you? Because you had a little spout in house with Bob and things like that. But you've been running this now for nearly 7 years. What is it? What do you do?
So yes, so I did then also have experience outside of practice. I did work at FBOB and I worked at Investec. Corporate South Africa clearly just wasn't for me. I don't want to focus too much attention on collective intelligence because that was really like, I want to create a business that other small businesses can afford. So Black businesses, small businesses always find themselves in hot water because they just didn't understand the importance of concluding contracts or registering your intellectual property or registering a company. They just didn't understand all of those admin related but legal tasks. And I just thought, when I was at a law firm, I couldn't afford my own rates. Yeah. So let me set up something where for a fixed amount, you will get your partnership agreement. For a fixed amount, you will get your distribution agreement or, whatever the case is, your supplier agreement. So collective intelligence was started with a view of creating affordable services for small businesses, affordable legal services, right? And that's the path I sort of went on until one day I think a client asked me about child maintenance, and they were willing to like pay extra just for this conversation around child maintenance. And I thought, oh man, why don't I just start a blog on the side? Because I don't want to offer family law services under collective intelligence. It was very structured with the business side of things, right? Commercial law. And it was a purely commercial and intellectual property.
That is a danger for you lawyers, isn't it? You're a business lawyer, and then suddenly someone comes in and goes, "Could you notarize this for me?"
Remember where I'm from. I started law because I had an interest in family law.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. I abandoned that. I fell in love with intellectual property and with commercial law when I was doing my articles. So collective intelligence was purely commercial, and I was like, I don't want to. What's the word? What's the word I'm looking for, Rob?
I don't know.
I don't want to like merge family law into this.
Blur the lines.
Yes, blur the lines of my commercial offering. So let me start this blog on the side, and I called it Sustain Law.
So the idea would be that if one of your clients had a question, you could actually direct them to the blog?
No, the idea was I'm just going to have this blog where all these like teething issues are discussed on Instagram, this blog that's just very far removed from collective intelligence.
Okay.
And I'll call it Sustain Law because at the time, I think everyone was calling me Sustain Law. I think people in my family were like, oh, Sustain Law. And I was like, this is a great name.
I'm taking that.
By
the way,
Sustain
it is
Law.
great name.
Yeah, thank you. I'm registering Sustain Law. And obviously my IP side kicked in. So one time in the middle of the night, I woke up and I went onto the CIPC website and I'm like, I need to register this trademark before someone else takes the stand.
You follow your own advice.
Yeah, so I didn't even know which direction it would take. I was just like, I'm starting a blog. I'm going to discuss all of this. Like, to me, it was like petty stuff. I'm like, I'm going to discuss child maintenance. I'm going to discuss marriage. I'm going to discuss divorce. All those things that were centered around my upbringing with my mom.
Yeah, I was going to say, all those things that have impacted your life.
Yeah, all the things that impacted my mom and that impacted us. I'm going to empower women so that they don't have to go pay somebody to find out what the process is for claiming child maintenance. Incredible. So that they don't have to pay somebody to find out, how do I get divorced? Like, women need to know that you can get divorced without, involving an attorney, So let me just give women a platform where they can learn, at least be in the right direction. By the time you are ready to now spend your money on an attorney, you know the basics. So that's what Sustain Law is really about.
Oh, it's amazing. Well done to you.
Thank you.
Well done to you, but also, obviously, I know that it clearly it comes from a position of experience, but it also comes from a position of you genuinely care about others. But I know that you've got lots of listeners, and you've got lots of people probably reading your blog or certainly downloading your podcast now. But and I'm sure they send you lots of messages, but. Yeah. From them, on behalf of all the listeners, I want to say thank you to you because I think that people like you are an absolute gem to this country and to the industry, because what you're describing there is really what happens to people on the ground. Like there's got to be millions of people in this country who are who want to get out of their marriage, or they're not getting paid their child maintenance, or they are victims of domestic violence,
Absolutely.
or and et cetera, and they don't know where to turn.
Yeah.
So to have someone like you that they can look at
making
and go,
the law accessible. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
and understandable,
that's
and talk to them in a way and that they can understand it, and also the steps that they can take.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. And it was also important for me to just really take advantage of digital media, especially when I learned that you could do, I think it was very, very early. I learned that you could have Facebook remote, like offline.
Oh yeah.
So you didn't need data or whatever. And for me, that was a game changer. I was like, those are exactly the women I need to reach. The ones who do not actually have the resources to. I promise you, a black woman in a remote area does not even think that an attorney exists for them.
Yeah, of course. They don't think that attorneys are
attorneys
dressed in suits
they're for
very
rich
expensive.
people.
Yeah.
They are, in the suburbs. I can't imagine, and then they come across my blog, whatever, on Facebook. And it really just then says, child maintenance, go to a, magistrate's court close to where you stay. And this woman is consuming this without spending any data. That was important to me because then the law is now accessible, and she's now like, oh, actually, I pass, magistrate court every day on my way to work.
Yeah, I see it there.
I see it. Yeah. So, as little old me, I have access to this. I can go there and speak to a clerk and who can assist me with ABC, making the law accessible.
Do you know how many people you've helped?
I can only imagine, and I hope to continue being able to help more. I don't take this for granted.
You are exactly why I started this podcast.
Oh, thank you.
You are the unicorns. You are doing something so different.
Yeah. Standing
on the shoulders of others to bring help and advice to potentially millions. Because South Africa on the ground has real problems, certainly when it comes to accessing justice. And well done. Honestly, you're an absolute inspiration. You really are.
Thank you. I also really just enjoy the direction that it has taken in terms of the other parts of sister-in-law that found me.
Please tell us.
There's the mentorship aspect where I spoke about it earlier. I was like, I wish in varsity I had this platform to educate students on, I don't know if you are familiar, but on Instagram I've been running Mentorship Mondays, where we discuss, lots of things from interview skills, how to draft a CV. We take these things for granted, but people don't even know, where to start at the basics of drafting a CV.
No, I give it away for free as well on our
people don't even know what a CV is, right? And we take it for granted. We've also spoken about bullying in the workplace, we've spoken about racism. So all these conversations that you're not necessarily having.
How to handle it, how to spot it.
Yes. The conversations that your lecturers are not necessarily educating you on, those are the topics that I've started discussing on the Mentorship Mondays. And then there's obviously the podcast where I said, I need to give Black women in law their platform to shine. Because a lot of the time we are sitting there thinking, my story doesn't matter. But it actually does. It's actually important for high school or law students to find out that, there is something in mining law, or there's environmental law, or there's this, because we get into law thinking it's just family law, it's just criminal law, and it's just commercial law. And we don't know about maritime, aviation, pretty much everything.
Well, you've shared your story and you've shared other stories as well. And I find from the feedback that we get that that people, certainly students and those in the CA or maybe just slightly more experienced in terms of just starting out in their careers, they'll find something in this conversation and in others that you have that resonates with them, that they go, okay, that's me. Yeah. That's me. I mean, the fact that you openly shared you had your son in your first year of university. There'll be someone who may listen to this on the day that they find out they're pregnant in university and they think it's the end. Yeah. But it's not. Look at what you've done. Look what Tebello's done.
Beginning.
Yeah. And I was lucky enough to interview Tebello Motshwane, who's been doing great things in the AI, legal AI space here in Johannesburg. And she had a similar experience in second year of university. She fell pregnant with twins. Sure. And she also thought it was the end. And I said to her at the same time, as I'll say to you, there will be people listening to this who think, oh my word, there's nowhere else I can go. It's it. But it's not. Yeah. It really isn't. It's just the beginning.
It's actually really just the beginning, and you can just really use it to your advantage. There is a way out, yeah.
Now, in terms of the mentoring, is that something you do on a one-to-one basis, or is it something you do through your Instagram mentoring Mondays?
I do have mentors under me. It was just very organic. It was not planned. It wasn't these three ladies who came up to me and said, "Oh, please mentor me." Just through us speaking often, just me providing advice and guidance. Just led to an organic mentorship relationship. Nice. But for everyone else, I usually do have like a coffee mentorship session that I was doing until COVID, actually. I haven't done one of those in a while. But I'll take on like 20 students. We go for coffee and we have conversations around all these that I've discussed that I'm now doing on Mentorship Mondays. So we have conversations around bullying at the workplace, around how to draft a CV, how to prepare for an interview, questions to expect at an interview, so forth. I've done 2 or 3 of those sessions.
Well, hopefully you relive them, because obviously COVID.
I hope so.
Because COVID kind of punched us all in the face with.
Remember offline, I said to you, I have a lot of ideas for this platform, but sometimes, or most of the time, it's the issue of sponsorship, right? We spoke about.
Yes. I don't know how the brands aren't coming running to you.
This stuff needs funding. A lot can be done. A lot more can be done. Even just these podcasts, they can be taken on a much, much larger scale.
Yeah, I think, and you're tackling topics. Certainly, you mentioned there bullying in the workplace as one topic that people will face, and obviously you're there having in a coffee shop with 20 students who may not have witnessed it yet, or may see it, but it will happen because it happens everywhere. And again, I referred offline to a conversation I had almost 3 years ago now with Frida Levitsky, who's a former partner of a major international law firm, and she talked openly about subtle bullying in the workplace, how you might be, it doesn't matter how senior you are, but you might be left out of a WhatsApp group, or you might this, and it's all this passive aggressiveness that you will face. The fact that you are able to talk to younger professionals about that and say, just keep an eye out. It's going to happen. So this is maybe the direction you can take.
At least if you're able to identify it. I think a lot of the time, you don't have to have experienced something yourself, but at least if you're able to identify it, you're not only empowering yourself, but you're also empowering a colleague at the time who, you're working with someone and you realize they've been left out of the WhatsApp group, and you're able to say, I've noticed that you guys haven't included Rob. Is there a reason as to... You're not only empowering yourself,
empower them
you're
as well,
empowering your colleagues, you're empowering the people who don't have a voice at the time.
I love it. I think it's amazing that again, I repeat myself, but you don't know how helpful you're being to so many people.
Thank you.
Because it's preparing them for what will come. Sadly, we would love to live in a utopian world where workplaces weren't like that, but they are. And the thing is, again, when you're being bullied, or something happens to you, maybe you felt like this when you came across the racism at the place you started at. Your instant reaction might be, this is only happening to me.
Absolutely.
Am I crazy?
Absolutely. There are so many other conversations, Rob. Like I can't even just think of some of the conversations, but there are just way too many. Even just that girl who is finding out today that she's pregnant. There are so many things that happen to us in our lives, and we think we are the only ones. And we're not.
It's happened before.
There's so many things that happen to us in our personal spaces, and we think, People will be like, I'm the only one going through a divorce. I'm the only one going through, this. You're not.
Yeah, no, I remember I speak very openly about when I lost my mother, who I was really, really close to. It was heartbreaking. I was destroyed for years. And for many months at a time, I would think, I'm the only person who's ever had this much hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine.
Sadly, others have as well. And when you talk to people or you talk to groups and they go, oh, I dealt with this, I felt like this one day. You go, oh, wow.
That's exactly what happened to me.
And that
it's
helps.
affirming.
It's affirming. I'm not crazy.
Yes.
It's okay to feel like this. It's not okay that well, not for me, but in the workplace, it's not okay that that's happening. And we'll have to rectify it, but
that affirmation is important.
Well, you've got to keep going.
Thank you.
And we're going
so
to get
much,
you
Rob.
all of those sponsors. They're going to be lining up because you need to keep bringing these messages.
Thank you.
So can I ask more about? So Sisters in Law was started as a blog, and it's now turned into Sisters in Conversation, which everybody has to download. It's all available on Spotify, Apple, Google Pods, everywhere, wherever you get your podcasts. And we're here to support and grow and help you. I see, and available on. You're quite active on some of the socials as well. Aren't you?
I'd say Instagram,
Twitter, Insta.
Sister-in-Law is still very much like active.
So so and obviously it's an education and conversation platform. But so you've got your I just want to get a handle on all the things that are happening. So you've got your Mentoring Mondays, which is Instagram. So I'm guessing I'm not on Instagram.
Okay.
I put a few photos off of my dinner and then realized that no one cares. So I came off that. But so I guess that's something that people follow you on and people and do they send, is it something you've ever done live? Is it something?
Yes, it actually happens live, and I do have like a guest every Monday just discussing, because I can't know everything, right? So I have a guest who will speak on personal branding at the workplace, will speak on bullying at the workplace. The next one will speak on interview tips.
Have you and Rory Sang done?
We did one.
Podcasts.
We did. So I did.
Podcast.
I interviewed her very early in my podcasting. I think she's season 1 or season 2. And we also then, I then joined her at the beginning of her mentorship Saturdays. She had like that's how I met you.
Okay,
we just met online.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yes, she had a mentoring. I think the specific one that you and I were giving insights on was how to globalize the legal profession.
Yes. That was
or how
during
to
COVID,
globalize.
wasn't it?
Yeah. How to, well, we were trying to get students to consider studying abroad or practicing abroad.
And thinking they can further than just their borders of the country. They are relevant overseas as well. Yeah. No, I just think because you're both doing such amazing work in that space.
I love Rory.
So you have your Mentoring Mondays, and then you have your Sisters in Conversation podcast,
which is published every Monday.
I was going to say
it only goes it's seasonal. So season 1 starts in March, which is International Women's Month. And then it runs up until August, which is National Women's Month. So every year, the podcast has only been running for those 6 months of the year.
And then you take yourself a break.
Take a break.
Yes, because I don't think anybody listening who doesn't do a podcast understands how much work goes into these things. It's not just two nice people having a nice chat. It's actually, there's a lot of work that goes into around it.
Looking back at the podcast, I'm always like, I think the last time I checked, I had like 59 episodes. And I'm like,
you've got a lot on it.
I've been speaking for 59 hours pretty much, like just speaking.
But your guests are fantastic. And and similar to mine, I love it, and that's why I love listening to yours, because there's a lot of similarities. Really, you're shining a light on black female lawyers, and they've all got a story to tell. Absolutely. But do you know what was really interesting? And I said this yesterday to someone I was talking to, that when and maybe you find it as well, when we invite people onto the podcast, they immediately think, I'm not worthy. My story's not interesting enough. And I said to this particular lady, you don't understand. Your normality, the fact that you're normal and you've had a normal life and you've got a great career now, is also a lesson for people to go, okay, I don't,
I don't have to be an overachiever, but I can still have a great life.
We're not a tabloid newspaper.
Yeah.
We're not looking for sensational headlines. We're looking for your
real
story.
Stories.
What have you done? And
real people's stories.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that people can go, okay, that seems similar to me. That's achievable. And what you do is you show their careers and the dips. Maybe they've made a mistake and then they've gone this, and then where they've really, really achieved in all various aspects of the law. It's an amazing platform.
Thank you so much.
Is there any of those? I mean, obviously you've done nearly. Well, you said 59, nearly 60, maybe more now.
Because probably just around 70 now.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I'll check.
Is there any that stand out to you? I mean, I know that's a difficult question to answer because they're all amazing, but
but I think it's a good starting point is the one I just mentioned offline to you, the LLD.
Yes.
The LLD PhD. Yeah, she was phenomenal. One of those against all odds stories. Then there was Lerato from Bowman's, exceptional, made partner at a young age. Then there was Mpo from ENS. Then there was Zimasa. Zimasa was probably my first episode. She's also quite memorable. And I think also memorable because when I thought about the podcast, I was like, oh, I want to start a podcast. Then I spoke to Zimasa. She's like, absolutely, come interview me first. And then, it was really great. She's like also part of the reason why I started the, podcast, because I was just toying around with the idea, but I didn't have the confidence. And she was like, yeah, you don't have to know what shape it will take. Just start. So that is one of my.
She gave me brilliant advice.
She was like,
yes.
you don't have to have a structure for it. Just start and then figure it out. And yeah, so those are some of the memorable episodes. But everybody is really just so dear to my heart. Everyone who's agreed to share their story with us, they've done incredible stuff. And their story, their contribution to the legal profession matters. And yeah, every single story is important.
And they may not even know how powerful their message is to other young Black professionals or young Black female students thinking of starting out studying law. There's people at matric going, I don't know what to study. And then looking at these fine women, these fine professionals going, I could be like that.
I've never had an episode where I don't have somebody who like reaches out and says, this was relatable, Every single episode has been relatable to someone. And I think that's all you need. We don't need a large audience. We just have to make an impact in one person's life at a time. So this whole, I'm not going to start this blog because it's only going to be Rob reading, Rob matters. You better read it. And if that can change his just one reader's life, then you've actually done your job. You don't need 100,000 followers. You don't need 10,000 followers. You just need one person's life to change.
I'm glad you said that. And it's so true because I think exactly the same. Yes, obviously, with our platforms, we're trying to increase the listenership or the viewership or the reach, but not for any other reason than because we think it's a useful message. Yeah. But I've said to the marketing team before, I've said, look, I'm not looking at this. I'm not Joe Rogan. I look a little bit like him, obviously, because I'm bald and white and old. But but I'm not looking to be the biggest podcast star in the world. I'm looking to touch one person's life who goes, thanks for putting that out there. Thanks for interviewing Tebello because I find her such an inspiration. This is the other thing. That one of the reasons why I wanted to get you on is because you are an inspiration to so many people, and your platform is so inspiring. You've got close to 40,000 followers on Twitter. You've got people following you. The downloads are probably into the tens of thousands. And it's amazing. But it's great for younger people who have maybe facing what you faced when you were a CA, or maybe what we find is some people in their second and third jobs out of university, they're going, I don't think I want to be a lawyer anymore, or I'm not sure. I need inspiration. They're looking at what you've been able to do, and they can follow a different path. So keep it going.
Thank you. I think the two words that really just stand out to me a lot of the time is impact and influence. And like I said, if I impact and I influence one person, then the job is actually done.
You are.
Thank you.
So keep going. Now, in terms of, for you, it would have been quite a big moment, I guess, as a professional to step away from full-time employment. I'm guessing
very scary.
Like quite well paid. You would, to go full-time into entrepreneurship. How did that feel?
Left a job at a bank. It was very scary. But I remember when I left, I said, the money's great, but...
Perks.
Yeah, the money is great. And I think a lot of... there's been a lot of platforms that have tried to mimic sustain law, but if you do it because you think it's something you can do on the side, it doesn't work. You really just have to be passionate about wanting to impact and influence people, and that's what keeps me going when there's no money. Like, it's very. I know it's very cliche to say, passion, but there's no money, Rob. We were speaking about it at the beginning.
It's an expense.
Yeah,
it's
sometimes there's just no money, but you're like, I know why I'm doing this. So it was scary leaving a very comfortable salary with perks and pension fund contributions and all of that, medical aid and just the consistency of consistency and security of a salary. But I was like, I need to get this work out. I need to go and impact people and change lives. So I'm very happy to be changing lives.
Was there a specific day, can you remember, where you were like maybe talking to your husband, or just in your internal voice just going, I'm going to do it, I'm going to go? Like,
yeah, I spoke to my husband and he was like,
He got the calculator out.
Yeah, he really did. And at the time he's like, but you just bought a car. And I'm like, oh, God will provide. We've had so many of these conversations where, he's been a great, what's the word? Support. Even just financially, a lot of the things I've been able to pursue because he'd bring out the calculator and be like, okay, if we just adjust this and adjust that, we should be able to go another 2 months without knowing when your next salary is coming in.
And this is real life. It's real life. Really important for listeners to know.
So in as much as you
don't start out as this media mogul with millions around in the bank and going, I can do this.
In as much as I like pushing the agenda of women empowerment and whatnot, my husband truly is the underdog. He really believes in empowering women, not just me, but even his CAs. He's also an attorney, but even he's very invested in empowering his female colleagues.
Amazing. I'm going to shout out to your husband.
Thank you.
But he's living, breathing your passion, but also it's a genuine passion for him. The thing is, like, I know this because I've been involved in gender equality conferences and programs and a signatory on the Women's Foundation in Hong Kong. And I've worked a lot in that space. And I've helped a lot of people in the profession that can't afford the advice that they want. And we've all been there. You can't do that without genuine care.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so what's driving you on, and like you said, that there might be imitators to the crown, should we say, in terms of people trying to copy what you're doing, but they'll fall by the wayside and not because they're not very good or they don't genuinely care. It's because you genuinely care.
Yeah. And also, this is genuinely my job. Like,
this is it.
Like, this is when you go to your 9 to 5. I'm also like, this is my job. So it just wasn't working when I was trying to pursue it as a after hours thing. Right? I had to just go all in. So this is my job.
So what does your typical day look like? What do you?
Okay, I tried the 5 a.m. club thing. Right? It did work until one day I had an honest conversation with myself and I said, you're not a morning person, stop this. So apart from the days that I have to do like school runs, I wake up at like 7, I have breakfast. When I'm on my workout streak, I'll work out. And then
I love that. When I'm on the workouts. When we're on the workouts. I get it.
I keep just falling off the wagon.
I know. I keep walking past the gym, but I don't go in.
So when I'm on my workouts, stream, I'll invest in that.
And we do feel fantastic.
But I'm very flexible about the places where I work from. There are days where I'm like, I'm tired today, but I'm going to whip out my laptop and work from bed. And then I work from bed. There are times when I'm like, okay, I just need some fresh air and I'll work from a coffee shop. There are times when I'll also just work from the study at home.
So you go easy on yourself in terms of your environment. Yeah. You don't rigidly stick to one environment.
In fact, it helps with the creative juices to change around. So
it's important to note, by the way, for those who work from home and work remotely, because I know where you're going with this, because I have something similar, which is sometimes it's human nature. If you're not sitting at a desk, you give yourself a bit of a hard time and go, I'm not really working hard. Once you learn to break that cycle and go, actually, I will work from wherever my body is telling me to work from. And that could be lying in bed like this.
Yeah.
Fine.
It could be lying in bed. It could be at a coffee shop. It could be, at the park. In fact, the other day, I got so much done at the car wash. I hate going to the car wash, but I was like, this car needs to get washed. And I whipped out and I went to, it was like at a petrol station. I got a coffee and I sat outside and the car was being washed and I got so much work done. So it's changed my perspective on car washes. I think I'm gonna I'm gonna explore that more often.
Suddenly there's a desk outside the car wash and you're sitting there going, what is she doing here again?
Yeah, typical day is me I try to structure the content I put out.
Yeah.
So if I'm having a week where I'm speaking about divorce, then I'll start Monday, what is an uncontested and a contested divorce. Tuesday, I'll explain like what a summons is. Wednesday. So I try to have structured posts for purposes of like sister-in-law. Then every week I try to record 2 episodes of the podcast ahead of time, right?
That's tough.
It's so
It's hard
difficult.
work, yeah.
And then I also just try to keep up to date with the sister-in-law blog, which is on the sister-in-law website.
I'm looking at it currently.
Then, yeah.
Sister-in-law.co.za.
Yes. And then right now I'm busy putting together a workshop. So a lot of my time has gone into...
Oh, you mentioned that earlier
At the
offline. You
beginning,
mentioned
yeah.
with one of the banks.
Yes,
You're doing.
yes.
So is that workshop specifically to help the legal team, or?
Yeah, so no, that workshop is so this specific one that's happening on the 30th of September is just trying to get women in a room, and I have a panel of legal experts who will be talking on issues of marriage law, marriage contracts, child maintenance, divorce, wills, and estate planning.
So
then the bank is coming from like
bank.
no. Like the workshop is open to all women. It's a ticketed event.
But are they employees of the bank?
No.
Oh, so is it anyone?
Open to
Are they
the
just
public.
helping you
Yes.
sponsor it? Okay,
they're only
okay.
sponsoring it because they're going to have someone from the bank speak
Oh, okay.
on
On the
financial
panel.
literacy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So they're using my platform basically to try get clients.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but otherwise, the workshop is open to everybody. It's a ticketed event. If you are a woman who is invested in empowering herself and your family, then this is the topic. This is a workshop that you should attend.
And that's available through the website.
Yeah. The tickets are available. www.sisterlaw.co.za. It's an amazing platform. It not only serves as a workshop to learn, but the networking and I know we like saying, oh, it's a great platform to network, but networking is a real thing. It's the reason why I'm still able to do what I do, because I'm always making sure that I'm not leaving this room until I've let Rob know that this is what I do.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, Rob is like, I know someone you must speak to, and that's why I'm still doing what I do.
Okay, so that's amazing. So that gives us a really good insight into what your day-to-day is like as well. You're constantly on the go, constantly generating more content, and and obviously you're
consulting as well,
and you consult through the legal consulting as well. So
basically, a lot of the time, a woman will be like, "Hi, Tebello, I saw your post on uncontested divorce. My husband and I have already been having a conversation around divorce. Please, can we consult to understand more about the process?" Then you pay the consultation fee. And so I also do a lot of consultations. So my bread and butter is actually sister-in-law more than collective intelligence. In fact, people don't even know that company exists.
Well, when I found you, and we did some, obviously the joint podcast a few years ago, but when I was looking and researching you, that was a bit of an afterthought.
Yeah.
It's the sisters-in-law side of things that I
In fact,
sort of
I
found
met someone
you from.
who was like, "Oh, are you also collective intelligence?" Man, all right, great. And I was like, yeah, I also am. But I'm actually very happy that I'm not the face of collective intelligence. I can only serve this one master, being sister-in-law. So
But it's nice that the two are interlinked, and that you may get some work out of that as well. And
absolutely.
But that works. Okay, now look, I'm going to let you go in a minute because you've got lots of work to do. But, but I have enjoyed this conversation. But I've got.
I also know that both of us. We can talk.
We can clearly.
This is what we do.
I'm enjoying it, and I know how useful this is going to be. But there are a couple of things I wanted to just ask you specifically around the law, because this year has seen the advent and the introduction of AI and AGI into the legal sphere, shall we say. A lot of people are very nervous about it. It's changing the industry, or it looks like it's going to change the industry somewhat. And I think, personally, that's a great thing, because I think it's going to improve certain things, and it will also give lots of people who maybe haven't had access to certain information or certain paths that they can take, they'll have access to that nowadays. But do do you, and I also consult and I do a lot of career coaching, and a lot of people are very nervous. They think they're going to get replaced by robots. Please do not be nervous of technology. Just embrace it.
Yeah.
But do you see that making a big change in the industry? Do you feel the change is coming? Is there a technological revolution on its way?
So as a one woman run enterprise, I do absolutely welcome some of the convenience that has come with, technology, like automation, being able to schedule posts, being able to know that I don't have to always be there to press a button for the podcast to go out. I'm able to schedule it ahead of time for it to be published on, a future date. That has helped. Yes, there is the feeling a little bit overwhelmed sometimes that possibly one day a client will just be able to say, Siri, draft a distribution agreement for me, and Siri will be able to tap into the internet and have this contract, drafted for you free of charge, and you don't have to come and consult Tebello. There is that, but I'm on the fence, but I do embrace change. I do know that change is coming. I don't think I'll be replaced by a robot anytime soon. No. I do think that a lot of people who come to me come because they want to speak to the person. So it's going to take a while before someone is like, no, I'll just get a marriage contract on ChatGPT.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you said that. And I think it's absolutely right as well. And I think there's a lady who runs a law firm, Nicoline Schoeman, down in Cape Town, Schoeman Law. And I use her as an example. Shout out to Nicoline, because she said something to me on the phone maybe even a year ago now that really rings with me and rings true. And she said, well, we were talking about the advent of technology and the introduction of AI and how that's going to continue to evolve. And she said, Rob, I didn't study law and I didn't work this hard just to change names on a template.
Yeah.
I want to be a true advisor to my clients. So I'm going to embrace every single piece of technology that means I can get to the answer faster.
Yeah.
But I'm going to use my experience and my knowledge to shape it for them. Yes. That's where the person element comes in. And I was like, Nicoline, you need to shout that from the rooftops. Yeah. Lawyers who think they're going to get replaced aren't. It's about using technology. The other example I always use is about the recruitment industry. Now, the recruitment industry globally is $1 trillion industry. It is a massive professional services industry. And in 2004, this little website called LinkedIn came along, right? And before LinkedIn, the recruitment agencies held all the power because they had all the CVs, right? And then LinkedIn came along and went, there's everybody. So suddenly the tool that agencies used to charge their fees was open to the public. Sure. And so it was as big a revolution as laws facing with AI. And what I saw was an industry that turned around and went, hold on a minute. We're just going to use the technology. Yeah. So where LinkedIn tried to put agencies out of business, agencies became 10 times bigger. And it went from being a $350 billion industry to the $1 trillion industry it is today. Sure. That's about embracing the technology in front of you and being better. And that's all the lawyers have to do, right? Embrace the technology and go, I don't need that. Also, don't forget as well, certainly with technology, there's about 400 new platforms coming out every day. Sure. Some of them are going to be rubbish. Yeah, you can just ignore those. Yeah. But what people like you will do, you have the empathy, the understanding, the knowledge, and you'll just take the technology and go, oh, I can get to that answer a bit quicker, but this is how to implement that answer. Your client will be in front of you, and that's where that person element comes in.
Absolutely. Thanks, Nicoline. Yep.
Yeah. Well done, Nicoline. Yeah, and
that's exactly it.
It's exactly it. And actually, I go a step further than that, and I talk to lawyers about the way that they charge their rates a lot. And obviously, we're seeing billable hours go away, and a lot of people in certain firms are a bit nervous about that. And I said, no, but it gives you the chance to repackage. Doesn't mean you can make less. Yeah. Just repackage it and be a bit more of an advisor. Yeah. But that's good to know. And in terms of you as well, I've got two more questions before I let you go. One is, I want to know what's next for you. So let's start with that. What's next? What's on the horizon for you?
I read an article, I think just yesterday, that was talking about referring to Jennifer Lopez's book Halftime that she wrote when she was 50, my understanding.
Oh, right.
And in that book, she's talking about how at age 42, she didn't know like what's next for, this Hispanic woman. Am I being replaced by new talent, relevant talent?
Especially in her industry.
And and that really just resonated with me, because I feel like I have been in that slump lately where I'm like, shoo, I may have done it all and now it might be the end of my relevance. What is next for me? And for the first time in a very long time, I actually don't have an answer for that. I'm just in a slump where I'm like, am I going to be replaced by the new, younger, and more relevant voices and articulate voices? Or is there still room for me to be creative and progress in this unconventional path that I've taken? So yeah, I think let's just stay tuned. We'll see a year from now.
Wonderfully honest, and I
Yeah.
really appreciate that, because obviously most people I ask that question to are like, they've got that planned out. But
that's who I am. I
it's
usually have
so
a plan.
useful to the listeners
Yeah.
and to your followers as well. That okay, it's
Yeah.
okay, and it's okay to be in
I'm
that
just in
position
a season
sometimes.
of not knowing what's next, and I think that's also just going to really allow me to embrace whatever opportunity lands on my door next.
I think that's a really important message as well. It means, approach it in a
Whatever,
relaxed. Don't be nervous about
Yeah.
it. Go, I don't know. I can tell you now, you're not going to be replaced by the younger generation and come through. We are actually moving. I'm luckily old enough to have seen a few paths and few generations now, and I am Gen X, and I work with Gen Y and Gen Z, and then the next will be Gen Alpha again, and then I'll be old and then I'll retire. But what I'm trying to say is, when I was in the workplace, when I was a young professional, it was all about getting ahead and beating the other person. We're now moving into much more of a collective environment, right? Yeah, there's still competition. Let's not get wrong. It's not all sweetness and light and airy-fairy. It is, but it's much more about collective. And that is where professionals like you, with your outlook on life, about helping others and progressing, you're going to continue to grow and develop, and people are going to be,
I'm happy with that.
You're going to be leading the charge for many a decade.
I'm happy
from
with
going.
that.
I can see it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So take your time for the little lull as well, because that helps you re-energize.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why. Yeah, it's just that season of rest. We, just the other day, I was speaking about how we take it for granted, but we can't always be goal centric. We can't always just be chasing. You have to actually just take the quiet times for what it is and just embrace the quiet.
Yeah, it gives you a chance to reflect and go, okay, what do I want to do next?
Yeah.
I mean, the big advocate for that, the big time for that for me was COVID, sadly. And I know it was a horrible time for many people, but it gave me the time to go back and go, okay, right, what are we doing now?
Yeah.
I think at the time I was 45 44, and I was in that point. As we get to when we're in our 40s, like Jennifer Lopez mentioned, you go, okay, what next? Am I relevant still?
Yeah,
and I think there's a lot of lawyers out there feeling like that at the moment. So take the time, take your moment. Okay, I've got one more question for you, and it's related to that. And hopefully you have an answer, but is there anything that you know now that you wish you'd known when you left university, or even when you were at school? Is there anything that stands out, you go, I wish I could have told my younger self?
Yeah. I was like, I'm gonna be a lawyer and make money. But on the real, I always tell young people that at the beginning of your career, it takes a lot of patience. You're not going to get into the legal profession and make money. It's just one of those things. And if you are fortunate enough to start at a top 5 law firm, don't be reckless with your money. It catches up.
Sound advice.
Yeah, if you're not able to manage your CA salary, you're not going to be able to manage your partner salary. So,
that's amazing advice.
So be
Clip that.
very cautious. Be very cautious of trying to get into the legal profession and then look the part. Like, I want to drive a Mercedes Benz. I want to have a luxury bag so that people take me seriously. You're a CA. You're not supposed to be like taken seriously just yet.
It's amazing how many people have said that.
Yeah.
Even when I interviewed Frida and she was talking about being a partner, and
Yeah.
she said, growing up being an associate, driving around in a Range Rover Sport and everything, thinking that was amazing.
It catches
and then
up
she
with
was
you.
like, it's not important.
Yeah.
And it was such a waste of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's a really valuable lesson. I love that bit where you just said, if you can't manage your CA salary, you're not going to be able to manage a partner's
Not at
salary.
all.
And it doesn't come overnight, and it doesn't come to everybody. Everyone has a slightly different path. But it's a really important message is to make the right choices.
Absolutely.
Like, we've all been frivolous and we've all gone crazy a little bit of the time. But
Yeah.
I think back to myself, and my wife and I often talk about this, that when it came to the crunch, when we had made a lot of money, we made some good decisions. We bought a house here, or we did this, or we invested in our future. And I would implore everybody to do that as well.
Absolutely.
Well, look, Tebello, I'm going to let you go. We could talk for hours. I'm so thankful. I just want to get this out again. On behalf of all of your listeners, who I don't know, obviously, and the women that you're empowering and the work that you're doing, thank you so much. You
Thank you,
really
Rob.
are doing something different. You are really leading the charge. And what I always say is that it's the people like you that are the real driving force behind this industry.
Thank you.
No offense to our friends at the Big Five and the international brands.
everybody.
We love everybody. But it's people like you that are doing really amazing things and
Thank you
making
so
a real
much, Rob.
difference. So thank you, Tebello.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for just injecting a little bit of magic into me. Now I do believe I'm a legal unicorn.
You are.
There's a bit of magic in me, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.